Yo, this is Tony Roughcut, and remember the boat is Sound Radio. I listen to Wicked, your local radio station.
They talk about youth man promotion, but all I see is youth man starvation. They're looking somebody to be superior to them nature. So what am I do? What am I do for we? Come tell me what am I do? What am I do for we? What am I do? What am I do for we? Come tell me what am I do? What am I do for we? Look at the situation down in Africa. The children are dying of starvation. Yes, they must suffer. They say they are raising funds to make things a little better. But when you little check it out, things getting worse. So what am I do? What am I do for we? Come tell me what am I do? What am I do for we? What am I do? What am I do for we? Come tell me what am I do? What am I do for we? Them keep a lot of conference and them big chat under air condition, while the poor man out the street in the sun and the bad situation. What am I do? What am I do for we? Come tell me what am I do? What am I do for we? What am I do? What am I do for we? Come tell me what am I do? What am I do for we? I really don't know. What am I do for we? I really don't know. For the poor society. Oh yeah. So what am I do? What am I do for we? Come tell me what am I do? What am I do for we? What am I do? What am I do for we? Come tell me what am I do? What am I do for we? What am I do? What am I do for the poor society? What am I do? What am I do for we? Come tell me what am I do? What am I do for we? What am I do? What am I do for we? Come tell me what am I do? What am I do for we? Them talk about youth man promotion, but all I see is youth man starvation. They're looking somebody to be superior to them nature. So what am I do? What am I do for we? Come tell me what am I do? What am I do for we? Me no know, me no know, me no know, me no know, me no know. Me no know, me no know, me no know, me no know, me no know. I really don't know. What am I do? What am I do? I really don't know. What am I do? What am I do?
the unnecessary war.
I know.
We have to wonder what it's really for.
Yes, I know.
Can't continue fool the people. Maccabee alongside Freddie McGregor. Seeing me singer, let loose.
Try to tell them war is not the answer.
No way.
That peace and love alone must conquer.
That's the only way.
But you refuse to listen, and you don't want.
Can't fool the people and them can't fool the Father. We know said them coming with them new world order. Can't fool the people and them can't fool the Father. We know said them coming with them new world order. With them there, where all the weapons them there. The ones of mass destruction that them say over there. With them there, where all the weapons them there. The ones of mass destruction that them say over there. It make you wonder, it really make you ponder. How them never find no weapons over yonder. Can't go to war based on no propaganda. Me say them can't fool the people no longer.
When will they realize the people see them with an open eye? They're so blind they can't see what's happening to you.
People did not tell them, but them never want listen. Shine up them bomb till them sparkle and glisten. Brand new weapon, brand new ammunition. And them couldn't wait for the bomb, them fi christen. Can't fool the people and them can't fool the Father. We know said them coming with them new world order. Can't fool the people and them can't fool the Father. We know said them coming with them new world order. Instead of getting better, me say things a get worse. You see say everybody dep on terror alert. We don't see the plan and me see say it a work. Soon your civil liberties will end up in a hearse. Computer chip them want fi put in a your brain. Half for your own security that them a go claim. Them want all religion fi come under one name. The one world government, that is their aim. With them there, where all the weapons them there. The ones of mass destruction that them say over there. With them there, where all the weapons them there. The ones of mass destruction that them say. Fighting for greed and for oil and for power. Anything that get in the way get devoured. It no matter if them wrong and make a big error. What them do? Them just blame the war and terror.
When will they realize the people see them with an open eye? They're so blind they can't see what's happening to you and me.
I see them find him and them put them there.
What a day when the tables turn. Will you still be so concerned? You still don't want to wait.
The Father, you know, said them coming with them new world order. Don't you with the people and them can't fool the Father.
Really
we know, said them coming with them new world order. With them there, where all the weapons them there. The ones of mass destruction that them say over there. With them there, where all the weapons them there. The ones of mass destruction that them say over there. It make you wonder, really make you ponder. How they never find no weapons over here.
Greetings, one and all. Welcome to the NUBIART show. Want to welcome everybody aboard. You're in tune to myself, Kabara. Yes, and that was Maccabee and Freddie McGregor asking where them there. You know, no answer to that question all now, 5 years later, eh? Kicked off this show with Pad Anthony, Where Them I Go Do For We? Boom Sherman, Warmongers, and Creation Rebel, No Peace. You know when I start the show like that, you know the kind of music I'm going to be playing for the whole of the show today. But also coming up on today's show, I've been going to the BFM Film Festival, so got report backs on that. Got one interview this time, and I'm extended report back on what I've seen Monday and Tuesday. So that's going to be coming up on the show. But seeing as Maccabee put me in the mood, you know, I just have to play, you know, the great man himself. He's got his opinion on what's going on down in the world right now.
When will it be done, yeah? It's time for some fun. away the gun. George Bush and Brother Beer joined together and launch an attack, trying to capture Saddam from down in Iraq, to disarm him of his nuclear weapon. That's what caused the situation. But what a bam bam it bring on the nation. I me say, oh, what a war a one. Oh, what a war in Iraq. Yeah. Oh, what a war a one. Bush and Blair of them matic bank account Saddam transfer back. Bombs start to throw and guns start to bust all night. Oh, what a terrible thing in this nuclear fight. Don't know who is gonna win or who commit no sin. Don't in the Middle East, how them a go work it out. I mean say, oh, what a war a one. Oh, what a war in Iraq, Lord. Oh, what a war a one. Just a see them and I watch me TV while they go on the clock. Oh, what a thing, what it will bring. Oh, what a war in Iraq. George Bush and Brother Blair joined together and launch an attack upon the man called Saddam down in Iraq, to disarm him of his nuclear weapon, for them no like what they go on. But after a storm there must be a calm. I me say, oh, what a war a one. Oh, what a war in Iraq. Oh, what a war a one. Bush and Blair of them matic bank account Saddam transfer back down in Iraq. When you take a stand, I feel what does a one in Iraq. Oh, what a war a one. Man, kill him, man. Before them born.
Time for some fun. That's what Gregory Isaacs say. You know, when will it be done? That's what he wants to know. Okay. I'm going to play one more on that rhythm, and then I think we're going to go into the interview. And this interview is going to be with Louis Buckley. He had a film showing last night, and I interviewed him last night as well. Excellent film about Sierra Leone. So Mick Peter Hunningale just put his part in, and then we'll go into the interview with Louis Buckley.
Give it a second thought. Well, some got it lucky, heaven every day. But if lucky were you, would you give it all away? You better keep on moving. Don't bother watch another guy. You got to make a better try. Sometimes you feel like leaving, but tell me where you're gonna run. This life, it ain't no bowl of fun. Tell me, can you remember when you was at school? When your friends would be laughing, you couldn't be the fool, no. Now putting up a fight, you better keep on moving. Don't bother watch another guy. You got to make a better try. Sometimes you feel like leaving, but tell me where you're gonna run. This life, it ain't no bowl of fun. Keep on moving, yeah. At the end of the queue, standing in the line.
Gregory Isaac said, Waragwam. Peter Conningale says, keep on moving. That's what we got to do right here, right now.
No time to hang around, but that ain't nothing unusual. I'm certain that's no doubt. You better keep on moving. Don't bother watch another guy. You've got to make a better try. Sometimes you feel like leaving, but tell me where you're gonna run. This here life ain't no bowl of fun. You better keep on moving. So don't bother watch ya. No, don't bother watch ya, no guy. No. So you make feel.
Ooh, love it instruction he will. Love it knowledge can do. Hated reproof he is. Bad and brutish. A good man obtained favor from the Father. In the man of the wicked devices, he will condemn.
Michael Prophet giving you the Proverbs and Psalms there, you know. Excellent, excellent, excellent tune called Instruction. You know, enough people need to take instruction. And it's interesting because I heard George Bush this week talking about civilization, how he's going to civilize people, you know. So I don't know how that works. I really, really, really don't know how that works, you know. Yet to see any element of civilization come from that man. Anyway, BFM Film Festival's been running since last week, Friday. And yesterday and Monday, I took in quite a few films. One of the features, like a long documentary that I saw yesterday, was called Lion Mountains, A Journey Through Sierra Leone's History. Excellent, excellent, excellent film. The director and his crew, they just travelled across Sierra Leone and just brought in a lot of history, politics. But looking at history, because some people were afterwards in the question and answer, some people wanted to know, why didn't he talk about the recent fighting that was going on in the 90s? But, you know, Louis just said, well, look, everybody's covering that angle. So, you know, I wanted to show the historical connections. So I managed to get an interview with him after we saw the film. So this is the interview. And then after I've played this interview, I'll just tidy up some of the ends. And then I'll give you a report back on all the other things that I've seen at the BFM and the seminar that I attended yesterday as well, which was quite thought-provoking seminar. So anyway, this is myself and Louis Buckley in conversation about his film, Lion Mountains, A Journey Through Sierra Leone.
Yeah, NUBIART, right here. This is Chuck D, Public Enemy #1. Keep it locked.
Interview with Louis Buckley, director of Lion Mountains, A Journey Through Sierra Leone's History. Welcome, Louis.
How you doing, man?
Yeah, I just saw your film, yeah. You know, it was really good. Really nice to see like an in-depth historical film. I like, you know, because that's what I like anyway, like a documentary. And it's done in a way that it's accessible. It's not over theoretical, but it's got the information in there. So what was the thinking behind that?
To be honest, I was just trying to tell a story as it was, to try and create a little bit more balance in the way we see some of our history. Because I think often we have a lot of negative impressions of our history and of certain old stories or just assumptions. I did a lot of research in the National Archives and the British Museum. I did stuff on the internet and I read certain books written by certain historians. And the more I looked into it, the more little bits of history I found out that I just found like inspiring to know or just very interesting to know, because I mean I just didn't have a clue, especially like about the recaptives. I didn't have a clue that Africans were ever taken out of Africa and then brought back and set up within Africa. And obviously growing up here and having a Caribbean history, I didn't really know that much about Africa, like factually or historically. So what I did know was through assumptions and through maybe some bits and pieces that I'd seen on TV that was not at all factually based. So I think my own desire from what I had learned and how it had kind of inspired and encouraged me with my own life, I thought, well, I just would like to try and share that with some of the younger generation that I feel are caught up in different types of lifestyles without knowing some of this history.
You went out there, how long were you out there for?
I was there for 2 months, you know.
Okay, and how easy was it to get the people that you wanted to interview?
A friend of mine was already out there, and I'd been reading Professor Joe Ali's book, and he's a historian from Sierra Leone. I'd said to him that I want to try and meet up with him, so he actually went to the university where Joe Ali worked, and Nathan was able to arrange a meeting with Joe Ali. So yeah, we went up and interviewed Joe Ali, and then some of the elders that I met in some of the towns, and so some of the villages that I went to, it was a thing like, we heard about this village that was set up during that time period, and then we were like, look, let's just go there and have a little look at the village. So as we went there and looked around, we filmed some of the architecture and just got speaking to some of the people in the village. Often when you go into these villages, people would often point you towards the elder in the village, like the eldest person within the village. And obviously because they've been around for the longest, so they have more of a view of the history. So
I noticed you interviewed somebody who was like over 90 and everything that.
Yeah. And he was the oldest person in that village, so he seemed like a key figure to want to speak to and find out his perspective on his story, you know.
Okay, and I liked the bit about the recaptives, right? Because, I mean, the story about the people getting caught in the middle of the Atlantic and being returned to Africa, but not being returned to the countries they came from, but setting up in Sierra Leone,
with their culture, which is the complete opposite of what was happening when they were being taken to the Americas and the Caribbean, where they were actually divided and you weren't allowed to be put with somebody who spoke your language. But when they were set up in the recaptives, it was set up by towns. You know, so it's just that, you know...
What caused divide in a different way.
Yeah.
Because it took people with from a different culture and put them into another part with other people from another culture and mixed and caused different types of divide.
Yeah,
do you
because
know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
but
because it's like they wanted these people to be small communities, right, in Africa, but they would have put them in as a big mass.
That's right.
In the Americas,
and
but
mixed
not
them up.
Yeah,
that's one thing that I found.
But it's still divide and rule.
Completely, but just a different tactic of divide and rule. I think one thing that I was very shocked about, the whole recaptive thing, because when you look into the recaptives, obviously that came about because they said the Abolition Act, yeah? Britain said that they were stopping anyone being able to buy or sell slaves out of Africa, right? So British Navy then became responsible for capturing any slave ships that were transporting slaves, yeah? So obviously it sounds like they're saying, okay, slavery's bad, let's stop slavery and let's bring the slaves back. But in a sense, they weren't bringing them back and taking them to their homes. They would then take them to a place where Sierra Leone, what was like the head of British West Africa, and they would set them up in towns and villages around there, working to help develop the colony of Sierra Leone.
Which was obviously run by the British.
Which was another form of slavery. Do you know what I mean?
Because when the Maroons went there, the Maroons from Nova Scotia, they went there expecting it to be freedom, and they found it that they were still under British colonial rule.
That's right. And that's another thing that I didn't actually put in the documentary, but because of the freed slaves that were in Sierra Leone and the natives, the different tribes had began to work together to try and fight against the British because of the corruption and because of being let down by the promises given to them by the British governors at the time. During certain revolts, the Maroons, who had been fighting against the British in Jamaica for nearly 100 years, some of them that had been deported out of Jamaica and sent to Nova Scotia, where they had lived miserable lives at that time period, happened to be being promised to return back to Africa. They had been given a promise by the British that we're going to take you back to Africa and set you up. Yeah. When they got to Africa, the British said to the Maroons, look, there's wars going on here. These people are trying to destroy your colony. If you don't fight for us, you're not going to get the land we've promised you. So then they caused more divide. The Maroons, who had been fighting against the British, got taken by the British to Nova Scotia and used the Maroons to fight against the black loyalists and the natives. Do you understand what actually helped Britain reclaim control?
But the Maroons were used like that in Jamaica as well.
That's right. Yeah.
So, like, I mean, you know, the Maroons always have that dual kind of thing where, okay, they're freedom fighters, but their peace deal was a compromise, you know, so they were always used like that. The other thing that it kind of encapsulated a lot is when you went to Bounce Island?
Bounce Island.
Bounce Island. And you had the caretaker, and the caretaker, he either had swallowed everything white people had told him, or else he was... I don't know if it's that, or if it's like... People have a way of initially telling you a false story to see if you're really serious about the research that you're doing. And I think maybe I don't know, it could be either way. He either just blatantly outright lied to you and told you that everything African was death and destruction and murder and mayhem and everything European was wonderful, or else he could have been like just, well, I don't know what to say to him, so I'll just say anything because he don't look like he's kind of, you know, he hasn't, you know, Master hasn't told me to give him the proper story yet.
Do you know what? I think it's a bit like with him. He maybe have been given that information from when he was young, you know. And I think anyone, no matter what the truth is, if somebody's telling you something different from a young age and you continually get told one thing, you begin to create a perception in your head of how you see things. You know, and I think you find that in a lot of places. Like you go to certain parts of Jamaica, you say to certain people, "Yeah, you're from Africa." I tell you what, I'm not from Africa. I'm Jamaican. I've always been in Jamaica.
Ready to fight you for that one.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Because that's what they've been taught. Now, looking at the truth and understanding the facts of what's gone on, you know they're African. But because they've been taught that they're Jamaican and they've been disconnected from their African history, they don't know that. So with him in the continent, remember it was a British colony, and Britain set up educational institutes, even like the American anthropologist, yeah? he could have been telling him that. You know what I'm saying? Because it was like the caretaker was talking from a perspective where he was like, you know, like you said, he was looking at like Europe had actually done Africa some kind of service.
But I think it explains why after the war that they had in Sierra Leone recently, why he's part of those Sierra Leoneans who probably wanted Britain to come back and recolonise the country, because that's the only time when they felt like it was of, you know, where it was on the up.
Definitely. Well, you have to remember, Sierra Leone wasn't a country before. Do you understand? It wasn't, the city of Freetown wasn't there before. It was different people living differently. There was massive cities and empires in different aspects of West Africa that were completely, had street pavements, all different types of buildings, you know what I mean, that dated back thousands of years, all different types of knowledge, you know what I'm saying? Universities in Mali, there was all kinds of civilizations within Africa. But like those of us here that grow up without knowing this history, the same with those there that are growing up without knowing the history of their country, because they've been given a colonial education, also still see Britain as, in a sense, their saviour. Now, because, see, when Britain ran Sierra Leone, they ran it organised. Do you know what I mean? Because Britain ran it like a business. Sierra Leone, Freetown, let's not get it twisted, Freetown was a business for England. It was set up as companies and as a business. So when they left, obviously lots of parts of that business started to fall apart, because the British were there with their complete and utter start, middle and end design.
Yeah, because they've got the metropolitans and everything's serving the whole world. The whole empire is serving the metropolitan structure.
That's right.
So they make certain things function, but yeah, once they take that away, it looks like, oh, it's the people in the country who are causing the country to go down. But it's because you've been set up to serve that function, you're not serving that function anymore.
Right. And then you also look at the country. It's not like the country is developing itself. Do you get me? It's like the old colonial system is just falling apart, and people that are still in power used to serve the colonial system in many ways. So they're still feeding off a system that's falling apart. So the rest of the country is also falling apart. You know, instead of the country being set up to develop the country for the country. You know, it's like Sierra Leone's rich. It's got so much resources there. If the resources were being used to develop the country, Sierra Leone would move forward. Like,
because it's
like
got all, I've seen already a couple of films here there about the diamonds, and I've done programs about it already. So
not even just the diamonds though, bruv. You know what I mean? The bauxite,
timber,
the iron ore, the tin.
Because even the iron ore was in your film as well.
And then also the fruit. You know what I mean? All kinds of stuff grows there. And then, you know what, the fish industry in Sierra Leone is $1 billion. I swear, I think it's $1 billion. Don't quote me on that, but it's like a very wealthy industry, the fish industry, to the point where Chinese fish ships, Russian fish ships come into Sierra Leone waters and teeth all the fish.
Because Sierra Leone can't police its waters.
And you know what I mean, they might just drop somebody a bribe, and you know what I mean.
Okay. So what's next for you with this film first?
My plan is I'm going to do some more screenings over the Black History Month, and just get more response, see what people feel, see how people take it. I want to try and get it into the Sierra Leone community over here, do a screening for them. I'd like to release it in Sierra Leone as well.
Okay.
And then maybe try and use it for an educational purpose, an educational way. I think history is important for all people, so that we can learn from the past and learn to build a better future for all of us, isn't it?
And did you shoot a lot of footage over there that can be used for other things while you were out in Sierra Leone?
Yeah, and on the DVD, because I'm selling copies of the DVD, I've got some extras. I've got like a little kind of touristy thing that I put together. It's more just about promoting the beautiful beaches and stuff that are over there, and just some bits and pieces that people can do. Done some other little extras on the DVD, just showing some of the things of the area. We're also working on a part 2. It's not, I don't know really what we're going to make it into at the moment, but there was a time when I went up to a place called Mangi, what was to the north of Freetown in Sierra Leone, and we went to a festival up there that went on all through the night, what was just a real different type of experience. So I'm putting together like an arty piece that also just talks a bit about that culture and my experience of that village. So doing that, I can't see it as a full documentary as itself, but it's just more about a little journey, you know.
Okay. And what message would you like to leave with the listeners?
Yeah, I think if no one tells our story, we're not going to hear it. So I think it's very important that we tell our own stories, because we've got a vast amount of beautiful stories in history that could be told. And I think it's important that we tell that, because that's how we can build and learn from it. And also, I just say to anyone and everyone that just continue to study, know that history, because then we know where we're at, and then we know how to learn from our mistakes to move forward, you know?
Okay, and if people want to get copies of Lion Mountains, A Journey Through Sierra Leone's History, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can get in touch with me on my email at the moment. I'm trying to set up a website at the moment. And my email is black9films@yahoo.co.uk. That's 9 as in the word, not the number.
Okay, thanks a lot, yeah, and I wish you all the best with your film.
You too, brother. Yeah, nice to meet you. Right. Thanks.
And I said, big up Kubara and the NUBIART show, giving a different perspective on Africa and the African world. Love.
Far away from Babylon, closer to Mount Zion, yeah. I wanna be with my lion, conquering of the tribe of Judah, seated in holy Mount Zion of the Trinity. He's the power, and I'm called by his name, Rastafari. The works of his imperial majesty, Haile Selassie, is adored deeply in my mind. And I know I'll be on my way sometime, far away from Babylon, closer to Mount Zion, far away from Babylon. I'm on my way, closer to Mount Zion, going someday. There is no time for waiting, so you better be ready. See when the ships are sailing, we'll be cruising smooth and steady. 7 miles of black liner across the ocean, prophesied by Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Stepping out of the confusion and the commotion, take a rest from the west and ease your tension. Far away from Babylon, closer to Mount Zion, far away from Babylon,
Repatriation is a must.
closer
Make
to
we focus
Mount
from
Zion.
Africa. I'm not gonna be alongside Queen Amiga.
I wanna be with my lion, conquering of the tribe of Judah,
Oh, whoa.
seated in holy Mount Zion of the Trinity.
And when we tell them, say, think I joke the rasta make. When we say we are go step, I will be like a cassette. When you're pressing the eject, preparation we are make. Certain time we are go take. Serious is not a threat. Getting ready, getting set. Africa we not forget, we not reject, we not neglect. Babylon we get we yet, so we slipping through the net. Now go powder, now go pet. Take the line around the jet. This your place is not correct, so Africa we are select.
Far away from Babylon,
Yes, we have a forward as I am.
closer to Mount Zion,
Haile Selassie I rely on.
far away from Babylon,
Yes, we are trod on Mount Zion.
closer to Mount Zion.
We're treading on, we're treading on.
There is no time for waiting, so you better be ready.
You know.
See when the ships are sailing, we'll be cruising smooth and steady.
Well, I'm making it a date, and I don't wanna be late. Yes, I'm telling it just straight. Me not in and no debate. Rastafari, I go shake, I go left out of the place. Going forward to the base, retiring from the race. The youth in Africa are waiting, they are all anticipating. I and I repatriating, no discriminating. Rastafari feel the force. Forward to the source. Babylon, we are divorced without no sadness or remorse.
Far away from Babylon,
Yes, we have been forward as I am.
closer to Mount Zion,
Haile Selassie, I rely on.
far away from Babylon,
Yes, we have been tread on Mount Zion.
closer to Mount Zion.
We're treading on. Hey, Repatriation is a must, it's not a possibility. Spiritually, physically, got the capability. Land did a cheap, that's affordability. What heap of land took, that's availability. Rasta done make the study, check the feasibility. Where Africans are ready, that's compatibility. Use the skills we have and use the high ability to build up Africa and give to the community. So all the Rasta people, what we need is unity. To check the governments, we need responsibility. Make them see with versatility, reliability. Africa's the land of opportunity, you see.
Far away from Babylon.
Yes, we have each other, Mount Zion.
Closer to Mount Zion.
Haile Selassie, I rely on.
Far away from Babylon.
Yes, we have each other, Mount Zion.
Closer to Mount Zion. Going somewhere.
Which are the north.
Far away from Babylon.
Yes, we have each other, Mount Zion.
Closer to Mount Zion.
Which are the north. Which are the north, them I go say. Where the Rasta man there. All them a look, they can't find me nowhere when we gone.
Mount Zion.
Which are the north. Which are the north.
Far away from Babylon.
Queen Amiga and Maccabee, Far Away from Babylon. Before that was Queen Amiga on her own. Yeah, coming off the two albums. Maccabee's album's called Word, Sound and Power, and Queen Amiga's album is called Away from Babylon. You know, and before that it was the interview with Louis Buckley talking about his film Lion Mountains, a journey through Sierra Leone's history. If you want to get a copy of the DVD, it's very, very, very good, you know, and that was his first film as well, you know. You know, he just got the inspiration, did his research, linked up with the people he had to link up with and just got on and did it. So, you know, just from that side, it means that, you know, we know that people are out there doing the works. If you want a copy of that DVD, the telephone number is 07957 994 138. 07957 994 138. And the email is black9films@yahoo.co.uk. Black9films, let me spell that out, BLACKNINEFILMS @yahoo.co.uk. And, you know, there's quite a lot about Sierra Leone, you know, different bits and pieces. Another friend of mine, she came back from Sierra Leone about 2 weeks ago. She comes from Sierra Leone, so, you know, she's obviously seeing a lot of the things that are there, and she traveled in the rural areas as well. So, you know, looking at like a lot of things that need to be done, that people have expectations. People have expectations, and the expectations are not being fully met or fully realized. But, you know, there's still hope. And where there's life, there's hope, or where there's hope, there's life. So, yeah, and I know there's going to be more stuff next year with all what's happening with 2007 and the whole Wilberforce, abolition of slavery, all the stuff that's coming out with that. Sierra Leone is going to be one of the major countries that are going to keep getting mentioned because the Wilberforce Society, they've actually linked up with Sierra Leone, with Freetown in Sierra Leone. And there's obviously good and bad in that. I mean, you know, because, okay, at least they're linking with Africa and with Africans on the ground. But I just hope that they do link with the Africans who are kind of stable in their minds, because there are some Africans out there who, like the caretaker of Bones Island, you know, he was coming up with some stuff that I wouldn't even tell a 6-year-old child as a, what do they call it, fairy tale to get them to go to sleep at night. It was way off, right? And he's talking to big man. It's like, and that's, you know, it's really sad when big man's talking to big man and he's telling you stuff that it's just unbelievable. And it must, you know, I don't know. I mean, that's why I put it to Louis. I put this thing about, well, maybe he was just trying, you know, maybe it was either he hadn't had permission to tell you the right things, or he just wanted to tell you any old rubbish because he didn't take you seriously. Because, you know, I've had that happen to me, right? When I've been out, you know, I'm out there doing my projects and, you know, people are just telling you rubbish and you're like, but we know you're chatting rubbish. You know, you're not making me look silly because I know you're chatting rubbish. So, the only person that you're making look silly is you, because we're catching you on film or we're catching you in the recording saying stuff that nobody's going to take seriously. And I mean, Louis did point out that afterwards he went and checked with the man who's been running the anthropology project on that island. And Louis said, like, the man gave him much more forthright answers than what the caretaker had given him. So, you know, there is a danger that, you know, too many kind of Africans just want to jump and say, oh, you know, here comes our white God again. And, you know, we have to be very, 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 can't emphasize how many varies. You know, we have to be very careful of that, because that could be our downfall. That could be our biggest downfall. Anyway, I'm going to give you some more about all what I attended at the BFM Festival after I've given you the what's on in about 10 minutes or so. But before I do that, let me give you some more Queen Amiga.
It's just one time we have, so you better be ready. It's just one time, so you've got to stand steady. I know how hard it is to survive. You've got to give a little love and you can live free. You are saved. In the dark I will shine a light and make it bright, even through the night. For a clearer sight, we can take the flight to the highest heights. Clean up. It's time to clean the streets up. Babylon is clean up. It's time to pull the chairs up. Now with the beach club. Clean up time now. Working time now. No time for weeping right now. Have to do it somehow. It's just one time. We have to make this journey. It's just one time. So you got to stand steady. There are ups and there are downs, but keep a smile and not a frown. Seek the right, don't do the wrong. Your reward will be a crown. Now but trials and tribulation, frustration and the temptation, no segregation, annihilation. We want peace through the nation. It's time to clean the streets up. Babylon is clean up. It's time to pull the chairs up. Time to reap the wheat crop. Clean up time now. Working time now. No time for sleeping right now. Happy to it somehow. It's just one time. We got to stay in line. One time. So you not be dealing crime. One time. You can never see the vision if you are blind. One time. One time knows that time. Time is the master of disaster. So if you get caught in the rapture, you can call on the Father. You must prosper. Clean up. It's time to clean the streets up. Babylon is clean up. It's time to pull the chairs up. Don't forget to clean up. It's time to clean the streets up. Babylon is clean up.
La da 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 da. La da 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 da. I was taken from my people, robbed of my liberty. I was tired of the jailers, but the jailers wasn't tired of me. Every day you take a step, I just war along the wholesale block. You know that I can hear the prisoners say, and but my brain kinda seems very slow. Wanna see, I got to wait until the country blow. The reason why it took so long, they took my right away and gave me wrong. But all that I could hear the prisoner say, I stick you out there one day. Out there, ooh, I saw me hear them say, out there, my gosh, I saw me hear them pray. La da 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 da. La da 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 da. Praying for my meal, but my brain kinda seems very slow. Wanna see, I got to wait until the country blow. The reason why it took so long, they took my right away and gave me wrong. But all that I can hear the prisoners pray, I strictly out there. So out there, my gosh, I saw me hear them say, Kalang, out there, I saw me hear them pray. I saw me hear them say, la da 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 da, la da 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 da. I saw me hear them say, ooh, Kalang.
Gregory Isaacs out there. You know, every time I listen to Gregory, I always just bring a massive smile on my face. I mean, I'm biased. I can admit to bias and I can admit to being prejudiced when it comes to Gregory Isaacs. Definitely biased. Yesterday, when I was at one of the seminars, I met up with Stephen Jackson. He's got a film that's coming on tomorrow in the Black Filmmakers Festival. The film's called Rulers and Dealers. And it's the premiere tomorrow at 8:45 p.m. at the ICA London SW1. If you want more information, the box office 02079303647, 02079303647, the BFM hotline 02075400550, 02075400550, the website www.bfmmedia.com, www.bfmmedia.com, or the rulersfilm.com. The Rulers Film is Stephen Jackson's website, so that's www.therulersfilm.com, and you'll get much more information. I'm trying to juggle things so that I can reach down there, so I'll see what happens during the day tomorrow. But, you know, it seems like an interesting film because I had a long conversation with him, and it's not just like British gangster film, right? So don't think that. So, you know, if I get the chance, I'm going to try and reach down there, but I urge you all to reach down there if you can. But I'm going to take a music break right there, and when I come back, I'll give you the roundup of a lot of the things that I went to with the BFM Festival. I went to 3 film screenings and a seminar, so quite a lot there, quite a lot to think about and digest. So anyway, make me give you Junior Reid.
All my friends, if all my friends, see, many a days I've faced this ex-world a stranger, where I don't belong, where I'm not that strong, no, but it's nice to know There is Jeta who I can turn to, and he will always there. Ooh, he will always care. And it's Jah who create the rainbow. Whoa. And it's Jah who make all my vision come true. I can take all the sadness that this world will have to give, but I won't last a day without Jah. If all my friends has forgotten all their promises, well, they are not unkind, just hard to find one.
Sounds of Junior Reid, Ex-World of Strangers. Sending this one out to Sharonica, who I saw yesterday. Also out to Dewi, who I met yesterday.
I found the best. Yes, it's Jah who create the rainbow. Whoa, whoa. And it's Jah who make all my vision come true.
Also out to Wayne from Boss Crowns and Marlon from Kush Films.
Last a day without Jah. Without Jah. Yeah. Without Jah. Without Jah. So many times when the city seems to be without a friendly face, it becomes a lonely place. Ooh, it's nice to know that you will be there when I need you to greet me with a smile. It's all worthwhile. Yes, it's Jah who create the rainbow. Whoa. Yes, it's Jah who make all my vision come true. I can take all the madness that this world will have to give, but I won't last a day without Jah. Without Jah. Yeah. Without Jah. Many a days I've faced this ex-world a stranger, where I don't belong, where I'm not that strong, no. But it's nice to know this sweet amigo who I can turn to, and she will always there, with love and care. Yes, it's Jah who create the rainbow. Whoa, whoa. Yes, it's Jah who make all my vision come true.
Calling Kubara on Sound Radio, 15:03 a.m.
Right, time for the festival report back. Let me start with the films. Okay, I saw a film on Monday night, A Cidade das Mulheres, City of Women. I won't be doing any more Portuguese until I know what I'm saying, yeah? Okay, I know it means City of Women, and that was directed by Lázaro Faria. And this was a Brazilian feature about the female candomblé societies in Bahia State. And it looks at the practices, how they relate to the male societies, compared how candomblé is linked to other religions and cultures. The women talked about their love life, talked about their influence in the marketplace and their relation to the rest of Brazil. And one of the things about, they had different women's societies, right? And one society controlled wholesale. So they would go and get from, if it was fish, they would go right there to the sea, to the beach and get the stuff. Or if it was a market, they would go to the major market and get it. And then there was another women's society that would control the local market where people bought smaller portions. It's an excellent in-depth insight, Documentaries, right? Properly made documentaries. I can't get enough of them. That's me personally. I mean, some people like jokey business. I don't mind joking, But I like in-depth documentaries. And this one, they interviewed so many women who were all of them were in the Candomblé societies, all age grades, all different outlooks, representatives of all the kind of different viewpoints in that city, but they were still there, strong as women. And it was just an excellent film. Excellent film. So that one was called City of Women. Met quite a few people up there who I know were interested in those kind of things. Kesumaba was up there, Andy was up there, Ray was up there, Ray Hendricks was up there. So many other people, right? So everybody just logged on to that. Everybody just clocked it that was a film to watch. And, you saw them doing all their ceremonies and everything. There was nothing hidden. And they told you about how they financed everything and how they bought their different temples. And, some of the societies had been running since the 1930s. So, when people, there's proof that, like, when people want to, people can work together, Just takes a little bit of initiative. So that was Monday. Yesterday evening, I went to see 2 sets of short films. So there was the United Nations of Hip Hop. And the Black Film Festival this year is concentrating a lot on hip hop. So there was quite a lot of hip hop films. The United Nations of Hip Hop, that was directed by Christina Cho. That was an insight into hip hop in Senegal. Then there was Bling, which was directed by Karim Edward, which was looking at hip-hop's obsession with diamonds and the role that diamonds play in fueling wars and corruption across the world, but especially in Africa. And it looked at the war in Sierra Leone and all this whole thing about conflict diamonds. And there was one man who, he was like an American US diamond merchant, and he was saying how, he's now setting up a record label because so many rappers have come to him spending hundreds of thousands of dollars with him that he now feels that he's got the finance and the connections. This was like a European man, so all these rappers talking about the bling bling and everything, right? All that, that's what he was saying. He was saying, look, right, these people come to me and, they give me hundreds of thousands of pounds to make special stuff, and it has to be special. You can't wear what the next rapper's wearing. So you have to have it, 500 diamond encrusted crosses and, diamond encrusted watches and all that kind of stuff. And this man's making money out of it. And yet the people down there in Sierra Leone, it showed you all the assassinations, all the shootings, all the warfare, all the amputations, and how the people down in Sierra Leone were living. And yet you got these people paying hundreds of thousands of pounds, chucking it away. I mean, the person I was with, she just found it really disgusting, that we got these, and on one level, right, they can't be blamed because, in America, a lot of people, right, they don't have a world view outside of America, right? They don't really think. I don't want for people to think I'm generalizing or whatever, but I am just telling you how it rolls out there, right? You got people that they don't see any wider than the ghetto that they live in. So, for them, any status is important for them. But they don't, they don't have a world view. They don't look on it in terms of Africans in the world. They're not ready for that, And it doesn't matter how much they earn, right? A lot of these big-time rap artists, they ain't ready for the world, They can go from, hotel to airport lounge and to nightclub and to recording studio, but they're not ready to really interact down at a grassroots level. A lot of them don't know where it's at, They're kind of, the whole bling and how much cocaine they're all taking and whatever else other drugs and whatever other, the whole kind of pimp life, that mentality that they're on, it's taken them over. It has taken them over, and it's very, it's not good. It's not good. They don't look good. Anyway, Bling was narrated by Chuck D of Public Enemy, so I know that that's going to get a good airing. Right, another film was called A Black Scholar Investigates Colonialism. This one was directed by William Greaves, and it was looking at the life of Ralph Bunche, who was an African-American researcher who traveled in South Africa, Uganda, Kenya, and the Democratic Republic of Congo in the 1930s and 40s. He actually shot 14,000 feet of cinema footage, real. And he took about 10,000 photographs. And 2 of his most seminal books were A Negro Overview, addressing what's called the race problem in America and in the world, and when he was up in Kenya, after the visit to Kenya, he wrote The Land Question in Kenya, which was highlighting the dispossession and subsequent impoverishment of the Kenyan people by British colonial rule and exploitation. And that one was narrated by Sidney Poitier. I think this A Black Scholar Investigates Colonialism. I think they're like public broadcast service, PBS in America, so they get shown on syndicated TV as a national resource. The last film in that section was called Slave Reparations, The Final Passage. That was directed by John Iser, and it explored the case for reparations to be paid to Africans for the slave Holocaust. And it included contributions by Manning Marable, John Henrik Clark, and John Hope Franklin. And, you know, they were just running through the whole reparations debate. You know, what are reparations? It's not just the money, there's a whole lot more. One thing they did get into was, you know, whether there should be affirmative action. And, you know, they were pointing out, well, people complain that, oh, there's affirmative action for African Americans, but white skin in itself has always been in America a signifier, and those people who have that are beneficiaries of a permanent state of affirmative action. So it's like, you know, people are arguing against the situation that they've managed to benefit from. You know, that was really strongly brought out in the film. And they also said that, I mean, reparations are not about being anti-white. It's about being human and looking for ways for us all to get along on the planet. You make a mistake, you know, or you do something wrong, you do something drastic, you do something that hurts somebody, and you've done it consistently over a long period of time. You want to live on the planet with them, you try and repair the damage. It's simple, it's not long, it's not like rocket science. So, you know, that was another good film. That was Slave Reparations, The Final Passage. Then went back to Senegal, more hip-hop. This film was called Dr. No, and this one was directed by Owen Koe and Ozren Milat. And that was an exploration of hip-hop and Islam in Senegal, highlighting the overtly political nature of Senegalese rap. It's got a very anti-bling mentality, and the emphasis is on rappers supporting good causes within their community, nation, and the continent. It also looked at the role of swearing and derogatory terms, which would not be fit for public broadcast in a country that's 90% Muslim. So, you know, it's that kind of thing where they kept making this point, like, America might be where hip-hop started, but, you know, Senegal is where hip-hop is really kind of like getting itself into focus. Because, I mean, hip-hop is the bigger thing in Senegal, you know. And then the other film, Hali Halisi, which was directed by Martin Mullenberg, which was an exploration of rap in Tanzania. Some people call it bongo flavor and everything like that, you know, but rap's taken off all over. And the woman was there from, they had the question and answer from, let me just try and find this woman's name. It was just from the Hip Hop Association. I don't see her name, I saw it earlier on. Yeah, but anyway, from the Hip Hop Association, who brought a lot of the films to the BFM, she was there and she did a little question and answer session. She says she's got 200 films, all to do with hip hop all around the world, you know. So I know that woman's been doing some work, you know, she's got films to put anywhere. And I mean, a lot of them are shorts, a lot of them are just like between, you know, 8, 9 to 15, 20 minutes. A lot of them are in that kind of length. But, you know, just featuring a few artists. It's like a promotion for the local artists and everything like that. But what she did say was that the kind of films that maybe somebody would want, like a really in-depth, long documentary, like an hour and a half or a series, you know, you're getting up into stratospheric budgets, especially when you're trying to get hold of some of these bling-bling artists, because them man ain't coming out for less than 50. Right? You know what I mean? That's what, you know, and I'm not talking 50 cents, you know. For them man to put their face on a video, you've got to be paying them hard cash. So, you know, that's one of the problems with getting things, because people were asking for a global view of the development of hip-hop, and she was just saying, you know, there's people doing bits and pieces, but the global view is too big a project, too much money, logistics is just not on, you know, it's just not on. You can try it, but... you know, it's not as easy as it maybe should be, you know. So, I mean, that's one of the problems with, like, trying to do them bigger bigger projects. Anyway, it make me bring back in my father, you know.
The victory is mine, Lord. The blind can blind. All the talk you were talk said you talk too much. If you are dagger, if you run, come touch. Cause you slew Bogey and betrayed Gary. Now you want to come around test me. Yeah, diplomatic fools. Yeah, you better ease off. I won't surrender. Governmental tools, Lord, I'm come to bless. Oh, yes, it's true. Now my life became an open book. Even the blind man want to come and take a look. Though they get the wrong concept, great things are happening they don't expect. Lord, diplomatic rules, you better ease off. Governmental tool, you're looking in the wrong paragraph. Lord, I won't surrender, no. For the after that the battle may be, I be sweet as a victory. Lord, diplomatic fools, I better you cool. Lord, governmental tools, that don't have to be. All the talk you were talk, said you talk too much. Yeah. If you are that you be run, come touch. Though you slew Bogey and betrayed Gary, and let him flee from his own country. Now run, yeah. I just not get done. Go and have your fun, yeah. Diplomatic fools, Lord. Diplomatic fools, Lord. What you gonna do? Governmental tool, I better you cool.
Diplomatic fools. Yeah, diplomatic fools, Gregory Isaacs. And people say, you see, he's your father. He's not my blood father. He's a father in the sense that he runs the African Museum. And when I started on radio, I was like African scientist, you know. So I was researching and he was in the museum. Right, that's how it was. I was doing the experiments. And he used to listen to my program when I was first on radio, you know, because I used to call in him and Dennis, you know. Yeah, in fact, one day I'll play the tune that's there, you know. Anyway, the BFM, I went to a seminar yesterday after midnight, commissioning for ethnic audiences. And it's obviously called After Midnight because, you know, people are always complaining that anything that's half decent that's for African people is on at, we're lucky if it's on at 11 o'clock, you know. People will tell me that, you know, when we were at the seminar yesterday, people were saying, 3 o'clock? 3 o'clock at night, you know. As if, like, you know, we're all such party animals that we're just coming home every day of the week at 3 o'clock. Like, none of us were. No, none of us have regular lives, you know. So, anyway, this seminar, After Midnight, Commissioning for Ethnic Audiences, it was chaired by Michael Morgan, film editor of Touch magazine and the Ben presenter. And the panel included Priscilla Ekwe from the BFM Media Group and Lucy Morgan, I think was her name, from DFG Films. And she's also working with Channel 5 looking at ethnic diversity in films. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to run through my notes. It's note form, so I just highlight it, and if I need to expand on it, I will do. And Michael started by asking, are Ben and OBE and Passion, etc., letting the mainstream terrestrial stations off the hook by allowing them to say that African audiences have their own TV stations so they don't need to cater for them? And one thing about this seminar was it was opened up to the floor very early. It wasn't like 15 minutes of one speaker, 15 minutes of another speaker. They opened it up to the floor within about like 2 minutes. So contributions were just coming in all the way through the seminar. One thing that was highlighted is that there's a need for more commissions to go to African-run production companies, because what a lot of the channels are doing is they're just working with people who are in their existing contact books and database, so it's hard for anybody to break into that cozy relationship. But one thing we were talking about as well, a lot of people who used to work at, say, the BBC set up production companies and they get the contracts, which they would have done that work in-house if they were still working for the BBC, but they've just set up their own production company and they get the work because there's a stipulation that there has to be like such a percentage of work going to outside production companies. But it's going to people who used to work at the BBC, in the BBC's case, who have set up a production company, ITV, the same way. So it's all within that same kind of network. The other thing, we need both input from top to bottom, right? So it's not just who's presenting the shows, it's also who's commissioning the shows, who's doing the camera work, who's doing the scripting, who's doing the everything from top to bottom. We need to see Africans in there, because then we know that the programs will represent. It's just common sense. You know, you've got more people in there, you've got more input, you've got more diverse opinions coming in so that you can really reflect what's going on. One of the things about presenting programs, like for instance, I raised the point about when you have documentaries or anthropology programs, nature programs that are set in Africa, it's always, if it's a nature one, it's David Attenborough. If it's a politics one, it's Bob Geldof. If it's a travel program, it's like, what's his name, Bruce Parry, and the other one who's doing Equator Now, right? So it's always that kind of way. So someone was saying, well, look, I mean, there is a genuine lack of African A-listers who are considered suitable or competent to carry a primetime terrestrial show, especially as like the big media companies are concerned mainly with viewing figures. But, I mean, what that means is that no one ever gets the chance to present those kind of shows. So it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? No one ever gets the chance to step up a gear. There's a need for more African reporters so that people can actually see that mainstream TV is interested in them. Robert Beckford was mentioned as someone who has come up and has made quite a few documentaries, but a member in the audience, he pointed out that Robert Beckford isn't happy with the way that his programs are being handled. Even though he's making them, the end product is not quite what he's wanting. Going back to the very first point, I mean, mainstream companies seem to have given up on African audiences and they just assume that every African is going to be watching cable, so they don't need to cater for them on terrestrial. How to combat that obviously brought up the issue of positive discrimination. And I mentioned when I'm talking about the other film, Affirmative Action, right, where I'm saying, well, there's positive discrimination in favor of white people in the media. That's just how they operate, right? You know, they've got the same cultural, educational, social references, and they give them the bly. That's how it's rolling. But people need to feel that any TV selection process is transparent, whether it's called positive discrimination or not. You know, they need to feel that they've got a genuine chance of getting in there. And, I mean, some people are worried that, you know, there's still that feeling that, you know, there's going to be ghettoization if you have positive discrimination, and it implies that you're still not good enough to make it on your own, or you're still not good enough to carry the main quality programs that get the big budgets. Even, I mean, and the contradictions were there right in front of us, because the meeting was held at Channel 4, and no Channel 4 commissioner was even present on the panel, although a Film 4 rep was in the room. So, I mean, we're in Channel 4 with Belly of the Beast. Right, because remember, Channel 4 used to do North African programs, African films, whole series, but they stepped off that a long time ago, and it's a real shame. you know, and that's why they're getting into trouble now. Channel 4 is actually getting into a lot of trouble and getting a lot of criticism now because they've been chasing ratings. When Channel 4 was set up, it wasn't set up to copy the BBC formats or the ITV formats. It was set up for the people who they weren't seeing themselves being represented. That's why you even have a production company called Diverse Productions. That's why they used to do the Band Down File and all those kind of programs. Yeah, we remember them. We were there, you know, we remember them. That's how old Tariq Ali and Darkest How and all them man used to get their face on TV every single week. That's where they're all coming from. Well, it's not where they're coming from, but it's where they're coming from in terms of regular TV work. Was Channel 4 when it set up. And that was 20 odd years ago, so we don't know what's going on, right? It's not like, you know, the people are going backwards instead of forwards. Priscilla from the BFM Media Group, she mentioned the work that the BFM is doing, putting out shows on Passion, and she felt that TV and film would follow music's popularity into the mainstream. She felt very confident that it would happen. It just takes some time. Just in the same way that African music of whatever description, whether it be hip-hop or R&B or jazz or whatever, you know, you can hear it all over the place. She thinks that that's going to come with TV and film as well. But at the moment, I mean, stations were considered to be dull when they did not represent diversity, and that's why a lot of the youth were switching off and going on the internet up into MySpace and all that kind of stuff and, you know, selling their own DVDs because it was just like, the terrestrial stations they didn't feel were catering for them. Obviously, right, by the time you get to this stage of a meeting, you always get people who pipe up and say, you know, we need to be united, we need to make things happen for ourselves, we need to stop whinging and we need to stop looking for handouts. So that comment got made, and, you know, it's fair enough, right? You know, we should be more sophisticated about how we approach the people that we do approach, whether it be the radio station to TV stations, anything like that. You know, we have to look like we've learned the lessons of the past. On trying to put out programs for the African community, stations needed to realize that the African community is also diverse, just as diverse as the European community is. Like, some people like gardening, and some people like soap operas, and some people like costume drama, and some people like daytime TV, and some people even like watching children's TV. You got lots of adults watch children's TV and think that it's fine. So, you know, the African community is just as diverse. So that means that not everything is going to please everybody all the time, but we need the selection out there in the same way that, you know, there's a selection of programs fronted by Europeans. You know, we need that same thing because, you know, we're normal, believe it or not, we are human beings. You know, we are human. Commissioners still have problems on picking up on what's happening at the grassroots of the African community, despite the plethora of radio stations, plays, spoken word events and nightclubs. You know, so it's like the commissioners are still saying, oh, we don't know where to find the people, we don't know where to get to the issues. We went with the person who came to us and now we're getting slated for doing that. And, you know, people are saying, well, because if one program gets made, then that program has everybody's hopes and aspirations on it. If they're making 10 programs, then you can have programs that flop. You can have programs that people aren't too happy with because we know that there's quality there at the same time. It's not like, oh, well, we're only going to make one film about Africans this year in Britain and, you know, we're going to call it F Black People. That's not sensible. If you want to make that film, you go make that film. But if that's the only film you're making, you're in trouble. You're obviously in trouble. So, I mean, I can work that out, you know. Like, stations need to use viral marketing to reach audiences. Because, I mean, a lot of audiences, like, they're using their mobile phone, they're using the internet a lot more. You know, the stations need to get onto that. The other thing is that prime time and multi-platform promotion across all the media is rarely given to an African-fronted program. For instance, Geldof in Africa, there was a book, there was radio programs, there was a DVD of the TV program. You know, that kind of thing, right? African programs are usually commissioned for, it's either a one-off or it's a series of 6 and that's it. It's just 6 on TV, but there's no radio linkage, there's no book coming out, there's no DVD promotion. Whereas, you know, so it's never going to make that impact if it's not got that fullness there. one of the suggestions was that, where they have commissioned Africans to make programs or front programs, that at the end of the program, they could actually highlight that and point out where people can get more information. And if it's a special scheme that they're running, put it at the end of the program. People read the credits. The CDN Diversity Network people, the role, effectiveness and makeup of them was raised, as it was felt there had not been any great impact despite all the major terrestrial stations being on board. You can't really say, well, okay, there's more and better programs about African people on TV now, on terrestrial TV, than there was 5 years ago. So people are asking, well, what's going on? These people were meant to look into things strategically and sort it out. It was pointed out, you have to make the business case for diversity rather than looking at sympathy or past neglect, because commissioners, they're looking at, okay, what's the bottom line on this, right? Is there money in it? Because if there's money in it, because remember, right, someone pointed out, MTV wouldn't touch rap music. They wouldn't even touch an African artist, right, really and truly. Rap music brought MTV screaming into the modern age, so it's there. Right, where are we going next? Legali put forward the thing about withholding the license fee due to not feeling like we're being served. Legali weren't there, but it's something that Michael mentioned it as something that Legali had brought forward. Some people just said, well, it's not going to really happen on any kind of scale. People are not going to withhold their license fee. Right, people are going to pay it and complain, or complain to themselves. Some of them don't even complain to the BBC. But also, somebody pointed out that the license fee is not just for the BBC programmes, but it's also for the behind-the-scenes training and production and stuff like that. So, withholding the license fee in and of itself could actually count against us, because the BBC could then come and say, well, we don't have the finances to fund these training schemes. A lot of Africans go on training schemes with the BBC, but they leave. They go and set up their own companies or whatever like that. So, but at least they've gone through the training scheme. And if you say I'm BBC trained, it kind of has some kudos. Even if you say I was trained by the BBC, but they never gave me a job. There was somebody there he was working with the ITV scheme, and he says that ITV have a 95% retention rate of trainees, although most people in the room didn't even realize that ITV had a retention rate up at that level. The success of Desmond's shows that there is a market for primetime African-led TV. And, you have to accept ratings and money are always going to have a big influence, because there's less than 1 million Africans in Britain. So for primetime, it doesn't have to be watered down, at least not to me, but some people think, well, it maybe has to be watered down to get into primetime, because you're looking at maybe only 20% of the viewers at most being Africans. The majority will be non-African. So, it's how you play that game. Technology and the increase in multi-platforms are pushing the scope for access, because people are showing, well, okay, link it to the mobile phone, link it to the DVDs that all the hip-hop and grime artists are all putting out their own DVDs, link it into things like that. It needs to be remembered, though, that the media is a competitive industry, and every African success story means that someone who maybe already had a job is losing theirs, and they're not going to give that up willingly. So that's the other thing. There's only a finite slice of the cake. So there's people who are in there already and they don't want to give it up. Pimp My Ride came up. Priscilla thought it was an African cultural show in that it was first presented originally by an African American. And then in that sense, that's a program that people across the board will watch. So she was asking, well, it doesn't matter if it's fronted by a white person, because it's a program that it's got the viewers in and it's got people around it. And I'm not even happy with the title Pimp My Ride, and I'm not even happy with Westwood. So, what can I say? But the principle of just because a program was fronted by an African at first in another country, when it's coming to this country in a different format, do you get another African to format it? People mentioned Spoonie or Trevor Nelson or anybody like that. 279, I think, got a mention as well. You get people like that? Or do you get the person who will carry the audience regardless? Westwood's got audience. He's got audience. Can't say much more than that. So that's why they're saying, well, maybe he was the person to do it. Stations are looking at growing consumers. That's why they're looking at what the youth are doing. And a lot of the stations were really scared when Channel U came And with the whole MySpace thing, right, stations had to really look. That's why, what's his name? Rupert Murdoch just went and bought MySpace, give them £500 million or something. He just says, come into this. You belong to me. MTV were really scared with Channel U. So, you know, because they're looking at, hold on a minute, these people are 14, 15, 16 years old. Some of them might have another 50, 60 years on the planet. So they're looking at how to get in with them. The big money, though, is not in the one-offs and short series, which is what a lot of Africans get offered, but it's in reselling formats, syndication, program content that can carry across a range of platforms, which goes back to a point I was making earlier on. People brought up whether the targets are real or whether it's just people messing around. The final point was it was suggested that Ben, Obi and Passion should pool the resources to nominate somebody onto the CDN so that TV stations that are already out there are represented, right? I mean, because they don't know who's representing them now. I don't know if it's people in the audience, they didn't even know if it was one Asian woman or what. You know, people that said, we don't know because we don't see no benefits. So anyway, that's what was going on. I mean, very, very good discussion, you know, interesting people. It was smaller than what I expected. There wasn't as many people there as I expected, but as my old headmaster would say, sometimes it's not the quantity, it's the quality. So anyway, if you want to get more information about all what's happening with the Black Filmmakers Festival, telephone number 020-7540-0550, 020-7540-0550, and the website www.bfmmedia.com, www.bfmmedia.com. Anyway, that's brought me to the end of the show. I'm getting ready to sign out. Hope you enjoyed today's show. I definitely did. I will catch you all up on Friday, 10 till 11 p.m. Anyway, I'm going to leave you with the topic of the last 5 years. I'm gone. Junior Reid.
Airport and when me touch the immigration, them side mirrors, them side me turban. Them say Taliban, one them fi know say man a true born African. One them fi know say man a true born Rastaman. One them fi know say man a bad slave on the land. Man a no Taliban, them say where you was at the time of the bombing. Me and me girlfriend lock up in a cabin. Listen Bob Marley big tune when him jamming. Say Baba man no know nothing about the bombing. No link me with Saddam Gaddafi, them say me fever amin. Them a come and go on like a me cause the famine. I'm gonna take me class yes a stage show jamming. Say Baba man no know nothing about the bombing. Come here say just the other day me a make a trip go a foreign. Reach the airport and when me touch the immigration. Them side mirrors, them side me turban. Them say Taliban, one them fi know say man a true born African. One them fi know say man a true born Rastaman. One them fi know say man a bad slave on the land. Man a no Taliban, say me a fly go a foreign the way them treat I. Treat her like a terrorist, treat her like a spy. Me a fi wonder if I hope me turban tie. Tell them this a guy, this a not Taliban tie. If them a wonder if a Muslim tie. Tell them this a guy, this a not Arab tie. Tell them this a guy, this a not Poko tie. Tell them this a guy, this a not tie and die. Love Jah and live, hate him and die. Come and make we heal up Emmanuel I. Come and make we heal up John Marcus I. Who can save the world no Rastafari? Cause I miss a just the other day me a make a trip go a foreign. Reach the airport and when me touch the immigration. Them side mirrors, them side me turban. Them say Taliban, one them fi know say man a true born Rastaman. One them fi know say man a true born Africa. One them fi know say man a bad slave on the land. Man a no Taliban, me a fly go a foreign, them want get me confused. Put me through X-ray, take off me shoes. Yes I just war when me sip on them news. This Rastaman them surely them lose. Put me through the Department of Justice. I check if me dip on them wanting list. Them not run no risk since the crisis. Universal love, Rasta practice. Cause I miss it just the other day me a make a trip go a foreign. Reach the airport and when me touch the immigration. Them side mirrors, them side me turban. Them say Taliban, one them fi know say man a true born African. One them fi know say man a true born Rastaman. One them fi know say man a bad slave on the land. Man a no Taliban, them say where you was at the time of the bombing. Me and me girlfriend lock up in a cabin. Listen Bob Marley big tune when him jamming. Say Baba man a know nothing about the bombing. No link me with Saddam Gaddafi. them some favor, I mean. Them a go on like say that me cause the famine. But to me cause yes, a stage show jamming. Say Baba no know none about the bombing. I mean say love we want, ride around the world. Woman, man, and all boys and girls. Why? Come me say just see your daddy, me make a trip go a foreign. Reach the airport away me touch the immigration. Them side me.
NUBIART, a different perspective on the African world.